The thing in the corner. I've never been the type to scare easily. Horror movies, haunted houses, ghost stories, they always seemed like cheap entertainment, designed to make people jump but never truly linger once the lights came back on. I used to laugh at people who said they were too scared to sleep alone after watching something. But that changed the night I woke up and realized something was wrong with my room. It was just past 3 in the morning when I opened my eyes. I don't know what stirred me awake. No sound, no sudden movement, just this crawling sensation in the pit of my stomach that something was different. The air felt heavy, suffocating, as if someone had sucked all the warmth and comfort out of the space and left behind only emptiness. At first, nothing stood out. My room looked as it always did, clothes draped over the chair by the desk, my phone glowing faintly as it charged on the nightstand, the curtains pulled shut. Yet my gaze kept dragging toward the far corner of the room, just to the left of the chair. That's when I saw it, a shape. At first I told myself it was just the way the shadows had settled, or the heap of clothes stacked oddly. But no, this was different. The figure was darker than the shadows, its edges too sharp, too precise. It was tall, taller than any chair, taller than anyone should be if they were standing in my room. And it wasn't moving. It was just there, silent, patient. The longer I looked, the more certain I became that it was watching me. My chest tightened and I held my breath without even meaning to. My brain scrambled for explanations. Maybe I was still dreaming. Maybe my tired eyes were playing tricks, but I couldn't pull my stare away. Then it tilted its head. The motion was impossibly slow, deliberate, as though it was acknowledging me. My body went cold. It knew I was awake. I tried to scream, to move, to do anything at all, but it was as though my body wasn't mine anymore. I couldn't lift a finger. My limbs felt pinned down, frozen beneath some invisible weight. All I could do was lie there, staring at the figure as it stepped forward. The floorboards groaned under its weight, real, solid, undeniable. My ears rang with each creak, my heart hammering so violently I thought it might burst through my ribs. The thing moved with agonizing slowness, savoring every step as it approached the bed. When it reached me, it leaned down, bending so close, I could feel the shift in the air above my face. I couldn't make out its features. Its face was nothing but a void, blacker than black, a hole in the world where a face should have been. But I felt it watching me. The smell hit me then, damp soil, rot, the clinging stench of something unearthed from the ground. And then it whispered. I couldn't understand the words, but they weren't just sounds. They slithered inside me, wriggling through my mind like maggots, twisting into my thoughts. I wanted to claw at my head, to tear the noise out, but I was trapped. And just like that, darkness. When my eyes opened again, sunlight filled the room. The heaviness was gone, replaced with the familiar hum of morning. My phone blinked with unread notifications. The chair was just a chair again, draped with my clothes. For a moment, I let myself believe it was nothing more than a nightmare. Until I saw the footprints. They were faint but unmistakable. Small, damp stains of dirt pressed into the wooden floorboards. They trailed from the far corner of my room right up to the side of my bed, and then they stopped. The whisper beneath the floorboards. When my grandmother passed, the family barely spoke about her old house. Nobody wanted it. The others muttered about bad memories and strange things, but I didn't believe in any of that. To me, it was the house where she baked pies, told stories, and tucked me in under quilts that smelled like lavender. It felt like a piece of her that I could keep alive, so I moved in. The first week was quiet, too quiet. Houses that sit empty for years seem to hum differently, like they don't quite remember how to be lived in. At night, the silence pressed on me like a weight. Every creak of the timber seemed sharp, deliberate, as if the house were listening back. Then, on the third night, I woke to a sound beneath me, a slow, deliberate scrape. Metal, nails. It dragged across the underside of my bedroom floor, then stopped. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I lay still, straining to hear. A moment passed, then again. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. I tried to rationalize it. Pipes, rats, the wind. But when I pressed my ear to the floorboards, something far worse reached me. A whisper, muffled, broken, like words spoken through water. I couldn't make out what it said, but the tone was clear. It wanted me. The next day, I searched for an explanation. The basement seemed the obvious place, though I'd avoided it since moving in. The air down there was cold and wet, thick with mold and dust. The concrete floor was cracked like broken skin, but in the center was something I had never noticed before. A wooden trapdoor, swollen with damp, iron latch rusted deep orange. I told myself to leave it shut, but that night the whisper returned, louder, sharper. It knew I'd found it. The sound swelled until it was right beneath me, as if the floor would split open and swallow me whole. By 3 a.m, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight and went down. The trapdoor groaned as I pulled at the latch. It gave way with a sickening crack, and the stench that rose up was old, rotten, like earth that had been feeding on something it shouldn't. I leaned over, shining the light down into the dark hole. Something moved. At first, I thought it was just shadows bending. But then pale hands pushed upward, grasping the edges of the hole. Not one set of hands, dozens. Their fingers were too long, nails jagged and black. The skin was stretched tight, gray and thin, like paper about to tear. Then the whispering became a chorus. 100 voices layered over one another, desperate, hungry. And they weren't whispering nonsense anymore. They were whispering my name. The flashlight flickered and died. My breath caught in my throat as the basement plunged into darkness. I stumbled back, heart hammering, but I could hear them climbing, scraping wood, tearing splinters loose, dragging themselves higher. The last thing I remember before running was the sound of the floorboards above me buckling, like something wasn't trapped anymore. And now, every night, I hear them in the walls, closer, louder, calling me upstairs, calling me by name. The thing at the window. Nights in this house always felt heavier than they should. The kind of silence that isn't comforting but suffocating. The only sound was the slow, steady tick of the hallway clock, each second stretching longer than the last. It was just past midnight when I first heard it. A faint tap, tap, tap at the living room window. I tried to ignore it at first, assuming it was just branches brushing against the glass. But when I glanced over, every ounce of warmth in my body drained away. A face was pressed against the window. It wasn't human, at least not anymore. Its skin looked too pale, almost translucent, pulled too tightly across its skull. The eyes were too wide, unblinking, and they glistened with something that didn't look like life. Its lips didn't move, but I swore I could hear something, like a low hum vibrating in my chest. I staggered back, my phone slipping from my hand and clattering to the floor. When I scrambled to look again, the face was gone. Panic set in. I ran through the house, locking doors, sliding the bolts, checking every window twice. My breathing was shallow, uneven, and my hands shook as though I were standing in freezing water. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination. I was tired. I hadn't been sleeping well. That was all. But then the tapping came again, this time from the kitchen window. Tap, 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 slow, deliberate. I forced myself to look. At first I saw nothing, just my own reflection in the glass, pale and trembling. But then I noticed it. In the reflection behind me down the hallway, something moved, tall, crooked, a shape that seemed to bend wrong, slipping out of sight the second I spun around. My chest tightened. The hallway was empty. I wanted to believe it, but the air felt wrong, heavy, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Then the lights flickered. One by one, each bulb dimmed and went out, leaving me in crushing darkness. My pulse roared in my ears. I fumbled blindly for my phone, my shaking hands finally unlocking the screen. The weak glow of the flashlight barely pierced the dark, but it was enough to catch the window again. And it was there, no longer outside. It stood in the room with me. That same face, skin stretched thin, eyes bulging with hunger, was inches from mine. Its reflection hadn't lied. It was already inside. I didn't scream. I couldn't. Its face opened, and though no sound came from its mouth, my ears filled with a chorus of whispers, thousands of voices overlapping. The words blurred together, but one thing was clear. They were all saying my name.